This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the TWSN Tailgate Show. My name is Matt Levine, as always, and I am joined by my co-host, Josh Northcutt. How you doing today, Josh?
Doing all right, man. Just ready to talk some college football now that the baseball season's over, as we talked about before we went on air. So let's just talk some college
season
football.
is not over. It is over for your Cincinnati Reds, and I apologize for that.
Season's over.
Let me rephrase it. I don't apologize, but I apologize for you because I feel for you.
Season's over. There's no World Series this year.
There was never going to be a World Series for you guys. That's okay. Maybe next year. Let's
talk college football.
Let's talk some college football here. We have a lot to talk about in this show, Josh.
Yes,
a lot. We're doing some extra things this week that we normally don't do because there's too much we have to talk about, right? So let's just get straight into this because we have so much to talk about. But first, we got to go look at our picks from last week. I'm slowly catching up, Josh.
We don't have
6 games back.
We don't have to do this.
Oh no, we have to do this because every week that I've had a bad week, you have told me we have to do this. So you have had 2 straight weeks where I have had a better record than you, albeit by a game or so. But I'm slowly catching up. I'm only 6 games back, and we have a long season to go.
We do.
And as I've said each and every week on this show, when all is said and done, I'm gonna have a better record than you.
We'll see. Well, we're gonna have to still figure out what we're gonna put a little wager on that or something. It'll be a friendly little fun for maybe the viewers.
I'll give I'll be charitable here because my team beat yours in the playoffs yesterday. I'll give you a game this week. How about that?
I hate you so much. We're talking college football. Leave my Reds alone.
Anyway, we'll actually stick to college football here. But Josh, do you want to talk about some of the games from last week quickly and just some quick takeaways that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. So just running things down real fast because everybody probably already knows it's Thursday. Week 5 is behind us. Week 6 is what we want to be talking about. But ASU beat TCU 27-24. TCU blew a 17-0 lead. It went from 17-0 to 17-14 at half. Not sure exactly what happened there to the TCU defense. Josh Hoover had one of his worst games as a TCU quarterback. Opened the half and ended the game with an interception. Missed Eric McAllister. Very, very breakout guy the week before. And also could not run the ball. 10 yards rushing on 25 carries was the Horned Frogs. Very impressive win for Arizona State as they continue to go through the gauntlet. That is the Big 12. Illinois. All right. What? What? Illinois 34, USC 32. Well, yeah, USC's back. They have no defense apparently again. Luke Altmaier, 328 yards passing and 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown himself. Jaden Maivia had a horrible interception, but shout out to Mekhi Lemon. 11 receptions, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Our buddy over at TWSN, Bradshaw, just posted a video about him becoming a potential first-round draft pick. Feel free to look up that on TikTok. USC came into that game leading the Big Ten in sacks. They had 1 sack that game, and they allowed 171 rushing yards. That is not what you need. Louisville 34, Pittsburgh 27. Your boy Eli Holstein got benched after his second interception, the 5th of the year. Pitt led 17-0 after the first, 27-17 at half, and was shut out in the second half. Just want to remind you that was your Pitt team that you were high on.
It was the
Louisville team that I told you was going to be pretty darn good.
I fully take accountability for that.
Tune out, even though you predicted it. Ole Miss 24, LSU 19. We're going to have to talk LSU's offense. I need to hear your topic on that after I wrap this conversation up. 0 sacks, however, by LSU's defense. That was not the Tigers' defense we were all expected to see. Oregon 30, Penn State 24 in double overtime. Dante Moore, have yourself a game, kid. 29-39, 248, 3 touchdowns. Drew Waller, 14 of 24, 137, 2 touchdowns, and an interception in double overtime to lose the game on first down yet again. Just like what happened to Notre Dame. Wasn't double overtime, but still. You can't throw that pick on first down. You just can't do it. You're a senior. You got to be better. Teams combined, however, for 8 of 10 on fourth down. Very impressive and ballsy plays by both. And then Bama, Georgia. What a game that was. 24-21. There was a little bit of scoring. There was a lot of defense. Bama led 24-14 at half. Both teams went scoreless in the fourth quarter. Ty Simpson, welcome to the Heisman conversation. 24 of 38, 276, 2 touchdowns, plus a rushing touchdown. Gunnar Stockton, only 130 yards and a touchdown. Uga had 227 rushing yards to Alabama's 117 and still lost.
Yep.
So, Matt, I'll throw it back to you. I'll throw it back to you. I obviously threw a lot out there. Out of those 6 games we talked about, I do have to ask you, LSU's offense, LSU's defense, panic button or just Lane Kiffin was finally due to beat y'all?
I think defensively they were okay. Yes, they didn't have the sack, but they held an explosive Ole Miss team down at home, mind you. They were on the road. LSU was on the road in that game, and they still could have won, and they played a horrible game. The offense is a little concerning. Nuss, like I said a couple weeks ago, Nussmeier is, I think he's hurt. I really do. And Brian Kelly came out the other day and said that he's going to stick with them, and they have a bye week this week, so maybe that will, help them a little bit. I'm a little concerned about the offense. Defensively, I'm not as concerned. They still held this team down a little bit, and they only lost by 5. And they made a push at the end. They failed 2-point conversion. The play calling, in my opinion, is what did LSU in. And my hot take here, Ole Miss is overrated. Way overrated. I'm sorry. Lane Kiffin's feeling himself right now, talking, we're not going to have dynasties and all of this nonsense. Dude, stop. Just stop. Win something, and then maybe you can talk. Like, come on. He does this every single year. Ole Miss does this every year, where they look like a contender for the first 8-9 weeks, and then they fall off a cliff. And it's likely going to happen again this season. I do not believe in this team. I'm sorry. I don't believe them. And it's hard for me to say that after they beat my team, but my team had to put a horrible performance out on the road, and they still almost won the game.
They do have an
That's all I got. That's all I have to say about that.
So they do have an intriguing matchup to end October at Georgia and at Oklahoma. If John Mantier is back, obviously that's a very big situation. It'll be one to definitely watch and see. But I still wonder if a 10-2 Ole Miss team would get into the playoffs. That's what's going to be left to see, because there could be multiple 10-2 teams in the SEC. It's just going to be cannibalism yet again.
It is every single year. Last week had some great games. We both had some hits and misses. But I told you about the Crimson Tide. It was just I
called them dead, and I was wrong yet again. I'm done calling people dead, by the way. I'm done doing it.
I'm sorry. Look, Alabama owns Georgia. I don't care what the records are. I don't care who the coach. I don't care. Alabama owns Georgia. It's just a thing. And we'll talk about Alabama here in a little bit, because they got another matchup this week that's very intriguing. But that was an impressive showing. And honestly, I think Alabama, as I said weeks ago, Alabama is back, and they're going to be okay. I stood up here and defended the Crimson Tide, Josh. You were, they're dead. They lost to Florida State. They're dead. No, they're not going to do anything. I said, no, wait. It's 1 week. 1 week. We're going to be okay. And this is me coming from someone who doesn't really typically root for Alabama. They're going to be fine. Alabama's going to be fine.
Bill Sparks commented about Lane Kiffin. Chambliss basically saved him because the offense looked so horrible. And the one guy I definitely want to point out is right there, Chris Bell, wide receiver for Louisville, but also Colin Lacey. They combined for 18 receptions, 230 yards, and a touchdown in that win over Pitt. Louisville needs Isaac Brown to get healthy if they have any chance of winning the ACC. They still have tough matchups along the way, including, I believe, at Miami on a Friday night, or they host Miami on a Friday night. Obviously not going to be easy. But with Miller Mosk, Chris Bell, and Colin Lacey, they are going to be in every single game. Absolutely every single game, because they can absolutely swing it. And then, of course, Ty Simpson. Daniel mentioned it. How about Ty Simpson?
We got to give him credit.
Yep. And then Bill compares him to Kirk Cousins, a top 50 player in the NFL draft.
I can
smooth
see it.
mechanics, impressive. It's just, I'm impressed. I am absolutely impressed. That's the guy who I thought, though. If you remember, I picked Alabama to win the FCC at one point. They were the top of my power rankings. I love their offensive line. I love their defensive line. But the question was Ty Simpson. Well, the question's been answered.
And
He's good.
I just want to point out, when we did our first show, the Heisman rankings, Ty Simpson was one of my 3. I believed in him all offseason into the year. I saw Daniel's comment when we talked to Heisman, give him someone to bet. Daniel, go bet Ty Simpson. Because if Alabama keeps winning, he could easily win the award.
I've got a sleeper that I'm going to hold off on right now. But
we'll get to this. Because we want to move on here. We have so much to talk about.
Yes.
We're going to do something we've never done here before. It's called the 2-minute drill. We're going to kind of go through a couple questions that we came up with that we want to talk about. Josh, I'm going to throw it to you. Through the first few weeks here, right? Who is your most surprising team? Like who has stood out to you where you're like, man, I did not see this coming at all?
So I went back and I had to look at my power rankings. I feel like that was fair. I ranked all these teams in the beginning of the year. I just wanted to see who the lowest was. Virginia was the lowest, who's been very productive. Obviously, they're a bad interception away by Chandler Morris from being undefeated, beating Florida State last week. But for the most surprising for me, it has to be Oklahoma. I did not see this coming. I had them in the bottom. I had literally their head coach on the hot seat. And we're now talking about Oklahoma, if John Mateer's healthy, as a national championship contender. Now, Oklahoma fans have been telling me on Reddit to slow down. The secondary is still a little bit iffy. The front 7 is nice, but the secondary is going to have some problems for teams who can chuck the ball around. So I'll ease up on that. But by far, Oklahoma is my biggest surprise.
I like it. I mean, I think I'm going to stick with the SEC, and it's not Mississippi State like our guy Will is talking about. It is a team we're going to discuss in a little bit, and it's Vanderbilt. I know that they won the game against South Carolina because Sellers went out, right? I'm not going to say they only won it because of that, but that was obviously played a factor. Vanderbilt has been trying to get relevance in the SEC for a long time. Yes, they beat Alabama last year, right? But this team, the way they are playing, they are looking like they could potentially do something. If they somehow go in and beat Alabama this week, the sky is the limit for Vanderbilt. Honestly, I have been so surprised by what this team has done and the culture reset there. It's been impressive to me for a team that just usually doesn't have any say in anything that happens in the SEC.
Bill mentioned Florida State. That's pretty valid because me and you both had Norville also fired. But you never know. If they fall apart in the second half, you never know what could happen with Florida State.
I think the Alabama win saves him for one more year. But when we talked about our most surprising team here, right? What about our most disappointing team? Because that's a whole other end of the spectrum here. Where are you going with this?
Okay, I'm not going to go the obvious. I'm not going to take the softball getting tossed up to me. I'm not going to take Clemson because Clemson's a clear answer.
Yeah, I thought that too.
And I'm not going to take Penn State because both of us were very high on them. I'm going to go over and I'm going to mention Kansas State. Now I'm going to put an asterisk on this because K-State could be right back in the Big 12. Because only one of those Big 12 losses counted in their conference record if they can beat Baylor this weekend in Baylor. But K-State, they came into this. That first week, they were over in Ireland. They lost by 3. And then they drop a home game to Army. Kansas State football doesn't do that. Not at home. You go to New York, yeah, maybe you might lose to Army. You don't lose at home when you're Kansas State in Manhattan. So for me, it is by far Kansas State.
Mine hurts me to say, because it hurts me in regard to one player and one player only, and that's DJ Lagway, and that's the Florida Gators, because I picked him to win the Heisman. I was dead set that I thought he was going to just take over. Florida has failed me all year long, and they have just disappointed everything because they had a glimmer of hope at the end of last season. You know, we talked about with Billy Napier and all this whatnot. They have looked putrid at times this year. And Lagway has not looked the same. I don't know if teams started to figure him out. I don't know if he was just overhyped, if he had the little run. I don't know. I don't know yet. I have to do more research and analysis. I have to do all that. But something's going on with him and something's going on with this Florida team. So I'm starting to lean towards the Billy Napier needs to go. I know I've been very, very dead set on keeping him, but more I think about it, we need to see Lagway under a new coach because I think this kid has so much talent, but something's wrong right now. And they're easily my most disappointing team.
Well, we're going to see him under a new coach and probably seeing some more play elsewhere. He's going to transfer out, probably back home towards Texas. I know Bill mentioned his dad used to play at Baylor, so that's one.
What about the LSU Tigers?
I thought that he would fit perfectly there, but I don't know the rule. Has it been implemented yet about transferring from SEC schools where the government basically said you have to sit out a year?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
I know Marissa brought that up one time when we talked about some SEC transfers. That's one thing I definitely want to go back and look into.
We do need to look into that because I mean that is a very interesting thought. Okay, so if that happens, then obviously he's going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and he's from Texas. That's why I think the Texas area makes.
Yeah, I mean, I just figured Louisiana close enough. If he, they're going to obviously need a quarterback after this year, probably. So,
and then also, I didn't take the low ball for frying flu, whatever. The words are hard right now. Auburn also. I don't even want to talk about them anymore. They're dead to me.
Jackson, Baylor. We're not talking about Baylor either. So, or UCLA. We're not talking about that at all. But we want to keep this going. Coach on the hot seat right now. Who has the hottest seat around the country, in your opinion?
Well, the hottest seat is Billy Napier by far. But the one that I'm going to go with on a debatable mindset, I believe, is going to. It's Napier. It's Napier. I really can't even think of a change after Arkansas got let go. Maybe it's Luke Fickell, but I feel his buyout's too high for Wisconsin. So yeah. It's going to be Billy Napier. And I'm very interested to see who Florida can go out and get because they're going to swing for the fences. And I've already heard the rumors of Lane Kiffin. But if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm not leaving my cozy home in Mississippi to go over to Florida.
No, there's too much pressure. Why would he leave the Rebels, honestly? I'm going to go to a team that I was high on all year long, and that is the Pittsburgh Panthers. Pat Narduzzi. He's been there 11 years. 11 years. He's 12-17 over his last few years, including this year. If things do not turn around for Pittsburgh, they need to make a change. Because the only year he's really shown like real success was that one year they had Kenny Pickett, and they still lost the bowl game that year. Something needs to change for that program because I thought this year was going to be the year they put it together. I mean, we've talked about it. I've been high on them. No longer am I high on them. They're in the Baylor category of my brain at this point. I'm no longer going to pick Pittsburgh. They've let me down far too many times. So this one intrigues me, Josh.
What about James Franklin becoming the head coach there? Just throwing it out there.
No, not yet. Not yet. Well, we're going to talk about him in a minute.
We are.
Who is the most dangerous one-loss team? I know it's still early in the season, right? But so there's teams that, obviously could compete for a championship that have a loss or had just had a bad week or something. Who is your most dangerous one-loss team so far?
I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people outside the obvious of Alabama. I don't want to, again, I'm not trying to take the most obvious. I will just throw it out there. It is Alabama to me. After what I watched on Saturday, they have the most impressive win in college football. They went into Georgia and beat Georgia, even if they do own Georgia. But the answer for me is Arizona State. I'm liking what I'm seeing from that team right now. They're playing defense. They're getting timely stops, finding the way to turn the ball over for some high-powered offenses. And they can score on anybody. And they probably have the best quarterback-wide receiver tandem, which I'm going to talk about their wide receiver in a little bit, in college football. Now, do they need a little bit more? Yeah. But they're running the ball really well now, too. So just keep an eye out on ASU to not only come back and win the Big 12 after that loss that doesn't look as bad now to Mississippi State. Had Tennessee on the ropes this past weekend. Just saying. I like the Sun Devils a lot.
I like it. And I've seen a few Arizona State games this year. They've impressed. But it's not Arizona State. And it's a team that I know you have talked bad about. And they didn't do many favors this last week. But it's the Penn State Nittany Lions. No, I don't care. It took a horrible performance by that entire offense to lose that game against Oregon. And they still went to double overtime. So, look, credit to Oregon. I'm not taking anything away from Dan Lanning's team because, going into the whiteout game, we talked about it last week. It's very tough, and only a select handful of teams have done it. But I am not counting this team out just yet. You, as anyone that's learned, I give teams 2 times, and then you're dead to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Penn State needs to give me the second reason for them to be dead to me. And right now, they are still in the national championship. No, they are going to beat Ohio State.
Oh, you're not going to be liked in TWSN for that comment. Oh,
I'm already not liked for TWSN for my baseball team, Josh. I don't care.
That's fair.
So I'm calling it now. We'll reference this back in a few weeks. Penn State is going to go into Ohio State and win the game. I said this weeks ago about Alabama doing it to Georgia. Look what happened. It happened. Now, when Buckeye fans want to cry about it, that's all they can do what they want. I don't care. They won the championship last year. They can't. There's no reason to be upset.
That's fair.
Because Ohio State is then going to lose to Penn State and then probably to Michigan.
I'm not saying that.
We'll talk more about that. But Michigan has owned them the last few years, but that's neither here nor there. But Penn State is easily my most dangerous right now. I know you're down on them. I know Bill, when we had him on the show, he was down on them. I'm not out on Penn State just yet. I have to ride with my championship picks right now. Yours is completely dead. So we still have hope for me. We still have some hope.
And Bill, of course, Mr. Knows Everything, did mention the SEC rules allows to transfer between schools during the winter window, not the spring. However, it will be worth following because of the one transfer window coming up.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's definitely going to be something to watch for, especially if they don't fire Billy Napier and see what he does. Or regardless, Lagway would be one of the biggest names on the market if he were to enter the portal. But Josh, before we get into some other things, is there one game that you are I cannot wait for this game coming up in the next few weeks in this month?
We're literally going to be talking about it here in a minute. Is Vanderbilt, Alabama.
Really?
I'm absolutely ecstatic for Vanderbilt, Alabama this weekend because can Vandy do it again, or does Alabama have it in them to get up for another game? They didn't get up for Florida State. They got destroyed all over the field. They came out and they smacked Georgia in the mouth. Now, can they get up for a second straight week? And really, they got to get up for the entire month. Alabama's schedule over this month, they get Vanderbilt, they get Missouri, they get Tennessee, and they get South Carolina. This is the proving ground for Bama.
Yeah.
But it's also the proving ground for those 4 teams, because if one of those 4 teams beat Bama, then it's going to be like, oh, it's eye-opening.
That's what you were talking about with just the SEC just cannibalizing itself just week to week. The schedules are just so brutal, and that's what makes college football so fun, but also kind of infuriating now because it's like you just don't know what's going on half the time. But that's also the fun of it. That's what makes our job even more intriguing. For me, it's a game that's coming up in a couple weeks, and it's an old rivalry for any college football fan that knows this. USC will be going on the road to play Notre Dame on October 18th.
That's valid.
That game is the one I have marked for 2 reasons. One, just the pure hatred between the two programs. I mean, someone who lives in Southern California, I grew up I said this before, I grew up a USC fan until I went to LSU, and I despised Notre Dame for a long time. It was just that hatred, right? But then secondly, we've talked about USC potentially being back. I know they lost last week, but Notre Dame has impressed the last few weeks since their opening losses. This is a game that is going to tell us a lot about both programs, because if Lincoln Riley can go into Notre Dame and get a win, he could save himself a little bit. If Notre Dame wins, maybe they run the table and get back into the playoff hunt. I mean, the rankings kept them in the top 25 despite being 0-2. So someone likes Notre Dame. They're shining bright on Notre Dame right now. So this game is going to be very intriguing, and I'm very excited for it.
I got no argument there. That's also one that, like, if Notre Dame wants any chance to make the playoff again with a 10-2 record, they've got to blow USC's doors off.
Yep.
Even if
At
USC
home,
just got knocked out.
it's in South Bend. They got all the momentum. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. But we're going to move on here because like I said, we got a lot to talk about.
We do.
We got our little Heisman podium that we're going to be doing here from now on. Josh, the floor is yours if you would like to discuss our compelled rankings of the Heisman.
Yeah, we all over at TWSN just kind of voted a little bit, and no surprise, Dante Moore takes over at the top. Justice Haynes at number 2, which I'm a little surprised to see. Fernando Mendoza in at 3. And then coming up with some votes were Ty Simpson and Jeremiah Smith. Odds right now in Vegas have Dante Moore in the lead, followed by Simpson, Jeremiah Smith, Mendoza, and Beck. So we're seeing the ball pretty well here. But let me throw out a name for you. What about Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver for Arizona State, who currently is tied for second in receptions, 5th in yards, and tied for 1st in touchdowns? If Arizona State were to come back and win the Big 12, run this gauntlet, and he comes close to finishing top 5 is cool, but say he finishes top 3 in all major categories as a wide receiver, don't you have to look at him as the possible Heisman? Because he is the key to that offense.
You do, and we've seen wide receivers win multiple times in the last few years, so we can't even say it's a quarterback award anymore. So if Arizona State continues to win and he continues to put up these numbers, I believe he will be in the conversation at minimum. He might get invited to the ceremony.
I don't know how you don't, but they have to win. They have to keep.
They have to, yeah. If Arizona State loses games, he's out. Like you can't. I know I have talked about the trend being where the teams that go to the playoff, they're not the ones with the Heisman, but with a wide receiver, it's kind of tough unless you have a year like you did last year with Travis Hunter. But even then, I didn't think he should have won it, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. But we're gonna move on to our bracket here because again, the same thing we did with the Heisman. We had multiple people kind of compile their brackets and we kind of put everything together here. So as you can see, we have Ohio State as number 1 for now. Ohio State fans, you will be losing to Penn State in a few weeks, as I said.
I didn't say that.
Oh, I said it. I'm very adamant about this. They're going to lose. Buckeyes are going to bank on that. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But Josh, would you like to explain any of this? Because there's some interesting matchups that
there definitely is. Obviously, Miami comes in at number 2, Oregon number 3 after their big win. Oklahoma goes down to number 4. 5, Texas A&M would host number 12, Memphis. The AAC is one to absolutely watch, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. 6, Ole Miss versus Texas. You want to talk about a barn burner right there. Love to see that. 7, Indiana versus 10, Iowa State. Contrast of styles. My buddy mentioned it could be an old school type Big 12 shootout. Well, with Iowa State losing as many players as they have on defense, that's true. And then the 8-9 matchup up top is Alabama, Texas Tech. Sign me up for that one. Sign me up for that one.
I hate to say it, but I think Alabama wins.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. I also don't think Alabama's going to be staying at that 9 seed much longer.
No, I think they're going to move up a little bit. I do believe that Oregon is the second best team in the playoffs. And Bill, we're not going to give you credit. We give you credit enough on this show.
Texas is still there, Bill. Texas is still there. You get no credit yet.
And Penn State will be in the playoff, Bill. I'm just notice how the committee or how the rankings did not put them down very far despite losing.
I mean, you got a point. You do got a point. They're still 7th when it comes
Even if they lose to Ohio State, which is not going to happen, they're going to probably still be in if they continue and win out because we have seen 2 lost teams make it before. It's just a thing. Penn State.
But Penn State also has to beat Indiana. Let's just remember they have to beat Indiana as well.
I mean, you were the one that said that Bloomington wasn't a very strong atmosphere, and
that got deleted. I apologize to the city of Bloomington and the fan base.
We don't forget. I'm not even from Indiana. We don't forget. So, Indiana fans, do what you need to do, but don't attack the man.
I do want to throw this out here though. We have Memphis currently in there. Second vote was North Texas. It's 3-2 basically when it comes to like the different odds and stuff like that. So Navy is undefeated. They play at North Texas, USF at Memphis. Memphis is versus USF, versus Tulane, versus Navy. So they get all those teams at home. Very nice for Memphis. Tulane only plays Memphis of these undefeated teams. USF gets at North Texas, at Memphis, and at Navy. And then North Texas is USF Navy. USF North Texas is next week. And one game I can't wait to dig into a little bit because I don't know a lot about this North Texas team. But they've gotten respect from some of our voters at TWSN. So
they're good. No,
the
they're
AAC
good.
is going to be wild, and they're easily the favorite right now for the number 12 spot, whoever comes out on top.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun finish, and we're going to be doing our Heisman rankings and our brackets pretty much every week here, just because we're getting close. We're getting to that point where the college football first rankings are going to start to come out, and it's just going to be a big debate. It's going to be fun, but we want to get into some of these games that we have this week. You know, we don't have these like marquee matchups like we did last week, right? We don't have these big powerhouse teams going up against each other, but there's some really fun games here. So we're going to start. One I know is near and dear to you, and that is Iowa State going on the road and facing the Cincinnati Bearcats. Where are you going with this game, Josh?
First off, pat myself on the back. I know it didn't count in the pick six, but I told you UC would go into Kansas and win. I also said I was being biased, but I said they'd do it. They were due for a win like that. They were due for a win like that. UC is favored in this game, if you can believe that, by the way. Was a little surprised to see that. But then when I dug in a little bit deeper, it's because ISU is plagued by injuries. Both starting cornerbacks are injured, the backup defensive end, and both kickers. They're going to be using a third-string kicker, basically the guy's probably off the street, kicking for them in Cincinnati. So if this comes down to a field goal game, you got to believe Cincinnati's got the benefit of that. If you're asking me to make the pick, though, I'm going to stick with Iowa State. I think Rocco Beck is just going to be a little bit too much. He looked like he found something, him and his offense last week. But don't sleep on the Bearcats' Brendan Sorsby. He has played excellent this year. 14 total touchdowns, has been sacked only once. The one bad interception literally kept them from being undefeated and potentially a top 25 team when they lost in Nebraska. And he's got the 6th best QBR in all of college football. Interested to see what Bill thinks about him now because he badmouthed him a little bit at the beginning of the year. But Sorsby looks to be the guy right now, leading UC. And you win this game, who knows?
Look, all week leading up to this, I picked Iowa State. I was dead set on it. The more I thought about it, the more I looked into it. Injuries are playing a factor. I'm going to be nice to the city of Cincinnati today. After the pure beatdown that a certain red baseball team took the last couple nights.
Where's the mute button?
I have to be nice. I have to be nice, Josh.
Liam says Iowa State.
Cincinnati is going to win this game, and they're going to upset the Cyclones. The thing is, the Cyclones have a very good defense, but as you said, they have a lot of injuries. The Bearcats have a pretty strong passing game, and Iowa State hasn't faced a passing game like this. While Iowa State can control the tempo of a game, I think being on the road, I think just being at home, Cincinnati is going to win this game in front of the fans. You will be in attendance, which is awesome. So you're going to get to see the Bearcats upset a top team, your darling team of the season here.
I mean, literally, I'm going to be torn because it is literally there. I have money on this Iowa State team to make the college football playoff and to win the Big 12. So I need them to at least get the Big 12 game so I can hedge it.
I'm with Bill.
UC winning is all I care about.
I'm with Bill. Frauds. The Cyclones are frauds right now.
He's put them on fraud alert for a while. So I will give him that. Interesting fact, by the way, to keep note of. UC has scored every red zone opportunity this year.
I just look at the comment we just got. We are all witnesses here. Liam, please. I'm going to need, if this happens,
you're coming on our show and shaving your head.
And you're going to do it on the show. You're just go. That is what we are going to do here at the TWSN Tailgate Show. We're going to have Liam shave his head if Cincinnati wins the Big 12. And so that's our fun. So I'm hoping just for the pure fun of that, that's what's going to happen. But and also again, I need to be nice to Cincinnati because I am a Bengals fan. So, you know, I have to be nice. Not in baseball, but in every other sport. Sorry, I've given Josh enough crap. Like he had a miserable night last night, and you know, college football's here.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. All right, we're gonna move on to the next game here. We got Virginia going on the road to take on Louisville. Josh, where are you going with this? Because this is a tough one. Virginia's coming off that massive win last week.
So I want to give props to Sports Illustrated's Jack Elio. He put out a fantastic article kind of breaking down what is going to be the key to this game. He mentioned special teams. UVA has a Cam Ross. He returns punts and kicks. Louisville has Colin Lacey. They both have returned touchdowns this season. U of L's defense has been absolutely stingy. 18th. Virginia's 5th in offense, averaging over 500 yards per game. But it comes down to whether I trust Miller Moss and Chandler Morris more. And it's going to be trusting Miller Moss, Chris Bell, and Colin Lacey yet again. So give me the cards to, unfortunately for Virginia. Congratulations. You won last week. Tony Elliott, you're at least off the hot seat for probably a season.
Yeah.
But give me the cards to keep on rolling until they match up with Miami.
Liam took my words right there. Cardinals smackdown. I mean, this offense it's insane. And Miller Moss has been very, very good. I mean, this is, you know, coming from USC, I wasn't sure what he was going to do, you know, like it's kind of like the Dante Moore thing, not to the extent, right? But he was whatever with SC. He wasn't really seen. He wasn't really much. He goes to Louisville. He's looking great. And Louisville should, you've been talking about Louisville all season long. And that's one thing I'm going to give you. You got this one right. You were wrong about TCU because they're frauds. But, you know, so hopefully this doesn't translate here because otherwise you're making me pick something I don't want to pick here. But right. I'm going to go with Louisville. I think Louisville is going to get the job done. Virginia's lost 4 of its last 5 road games. Also, that's not very inspiring for anyone to pick. So Louisville's going to win this game and keep this special year going because I think the Cardinals can do something. I really do. They look pretty good.
I do as well.
They look pretty good. But we're going to move on. Washington going up against Maryland. Washington is coming off that loss to Ohio State that a lot of people thought they were going to win. Ohio State shut them down. Yeah. They said, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to do this today. Malik Washington for Maryland. He's been very good. Very, very good. Over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. The defense for Maryland has been very good too. Do you think Maryland keeps going against Washington?
I don't. I think they were a benefit of who they played, and I'm going to be attacked by Maryland fans again, as I have been on Reddit. But they beat FAU, NIU, Towson, and then Wisconsin. The schedule doesn't scare anybody. I will admit Washington's offense now can be a little bit questionable when you look back, Colorado State, UC Davis, Wazoo. But last I checked, Maryland's defense is not Ohio State's defense. Ohio State's defense is the best defense in college football. I know I didn't say that last week, but watching that defense this year, that is the best defense in college football. Today, Matt Patricia, please go back to the NFL. So give me the Huskies, though, to bounce back and bounce back big over the Terps.
Nope. I'm with Liam. Liam is just on fire today. Like he is, you know what? We need to have Liam on the show so him and I can both tell you why you're wrong.
I promise you, Liam will be on the show the week Ohio State plays Michigan.
Oh,
that
man.
will have to happen.
I'm just going to give you guys the floor at that point and just let you just talk because it's for anyone doesn't know. Liam and Josh, they go at each other all the time. It's fun. It's great. But in this case, you are wrong, Josh. I'm sorry. Maryland's going to win the game. Liam, I'm with you. We're going to win. Josh is going to lose. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to move on.
I like that stat, by the way. 120th in the nation on third downs for Maryland.
I don't care. They're going to win.
Okay.
I mean, Josh, you are okay. The theme of this show is Josh is wrong. So
I get it.
Sorry, Josh. It's just going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to happen. But
I'm bringing the brooms this week, so it's okay.
Okay, we'll see about that. Texas Tech taking on Houston. Now, Texas Tech looked really good. They've looked really good all year. I wasn't sold on them until they just destroyed Utah a few weeks ago. I know Bill has been talking about him. You've talked about him a little bit. Do they keep it going this week, or does Houston pull the upset?
This is a game of a team that has arrived and a team that isn't here yet. I think Houston is still about a year or two away. Don't get me wrong. I love Connor Weigman. He has found himself a new home in Houston, looking a lot better than what he did at A&M. But Texas Tech is going to be too big up front. They're going to be able to sling it with Morton back. So give me the Red Raiders to beat Houston and beat them pretty soundly.
Man. Liam, I got to disagree with you on that one. Texas Tech is something else. They're a machine right now. They're it's not even just their offense. Their defense is crazy. It's allowing like 11 points per game. I know it's only going through a few weeks, but that's insane. They're putting up, I think, 52, 53 per game. That is insane for a college football team to be putting up through multiple weeks. Texas Tech is going to keep this going. I think Texas Tech is going to make the playoff. The more everything keeps coming down and things happen, I think Texas Tech is going to be in the playoff. Mike Crabtree is going to be so proud.
Two teams from the Big 12 better make the playoffs this year. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That is a two-big conference.
I agree, and the Big 12 is showing out right now, and it's been great to see. We're gonna move on. We got a couple more games here. Two of the bigger games where we have to talk about here. Miami taking on Florida State. Now, on paper, this game looks like it should be easy, right? Miami's been the better team. Carson Beck's been pretty good. I don't know. Josh, when I talked to you earlier today, you told me you might be leaning towards Florida State. Are you going with the Seminoles? Are you going with the Hurricanes? I'm going with the Hurricanes. I don't see any way that Florida State wins this game.
Can you tell me why? I need a little bit more belief. Or Bill, feel free to comment on this and change my mind.
Here's my biggest reason.
It is a gut feel. It's that gut feel again that Florida State is going to bounce back and beat Miami.
There's one reason and one reason only. And it's the quarterback. Carson Beck does not need to be Superman, in my opinion, for Miami to win this game. But Castellanos needs to be Superman, basically, for Florida State to win the game. And I'm going to bank on the player that does not need to be Superman to win the game. That's just the way I see it. Beck can make a mistake. He doesn't have to be the 305 touchdown. He doesn't have to do that because his team is stacked. Florida State, they showed some cracks last week. I'm going with Miami.
I'm going to stick with my pick that I've been making all week, and I'm going to take the U because I guess I do trust Carson Beck.
You don't want another loss. That's what it is. You don't want me to keep catching up. That's what this is. You just don't want me to keep catching up.
It is the situation, but I just don't trust either one of these quarterbacks. I don't think either one of these quarterbacks are national championship winning quarterbacks.
No, I'm with you. Beck has kind of regressed a little bit from his start, but I think that just the overall team of Miami, they're better than Florida State.
And I was listening to the Cover 3 podcast, and they talked about how Miami's plan may not even be to sack Thomas, but just keep him in the pocket and make him make throws that everyone knows he can't make.
That's so why I'm going with Miami.
I'm going to stick with the U on the purpose of that.
I was really hoping to be gaining a game on you here. You're just scared. Stand on business. Stand on business, Josh. I'm disappointed.
I'm good on this one.
Disappointed in you in this one. We got one more game we're going to talk about here. And this is probably the biggest game of the week. I'm not going to say probably. It is the biggest game of the week. That is Vanderbilt going to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. This is a repeat from last year, Josh. Alabama beats Georgia, and then plays Vanderbilt. And we all know what happened last year. I know there's a lot of people think that Vanderbilt can do it again. Are you one of those people, or are you going with the Crimson Tide?
By the way, not only is it the exact situation, it's basically a year to the day.
Yep.
When I looked it up, it will be basically 365 days from when it happened. But I'm just gonna have to say this: I have to see Diego Pavia do it. I have to see him do it some way, somehow, and I just don't think he can. I think Alabama's defense is going to be a problem for Vanderbilt. They're gonna be able to contain and stop the run, which is crazy to think about because Alabama hasn't done that all year. But who steps up for Vanderbilt if Pavia can't do it? And Alabama just says anyone else is going to beat us but you.
I mean, Vanderbilt looked a little shaky last week against Utah State. They had to pull one out and come back, and they did. They won. They won the game pretty easily at the end. But it was looking a little rough for a minute. All year long, like you said, almost to the day, Alabama has thought about that game last year. They've had to sit in this, and Kalen DeBoer has had to hear about this. He couldn't win the game, and they kind of derailed their season a little bit. And coming off this win against Georgia, right? They've been hearing all the talk. I think Alabama's going to blow the bricks off of Vanderbilt. Maybe not to the extent that it happened, what was that, years ago when Vanderbilt was like, we want Bama, and then they got Bama, and then it was like, 50-something to nothing?
And Daniel agrees. Bama spread hammer.
Yeah. Alabama, I think Alabama is pissed off about last year, and I think they're going to take it out on Vanderbilt. Because, like you said, if Pavia isn't on his game, who steps up? Now, if Vanderbilt wins the game and Pavia plays well, are we putting him in the Heisman conversation?
100%.
Yeah.
He actually probably will be. I think that win would be more impressive than what Ty Simpson did last week and what Dante Moore did. And I will move Pavia. And it's probably just a Vandy bias in my brain of, oh, my Lord, Vandy just beat Alabama at Bama. But, yeah, Pavia would definitely move into my top 3 and probably be number 1.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I have a hard time seeing Alabama losing this game. It's at home. I can't see it. They are very good at home, and it's very difficult to beat them. And I don't think Vanderbilt is as good of a team as a lot of people think they are. And this is coming from someone who said they were my biggest surprise, just because I didn't see them doing any of this. But I think it stops here. The Crimson Tide take this game easily.
And I mentioned Bama's run game issues. It's offense and defense. They're 108th ranked rush offense, 89th ranked defense. And Vandy, 18th ranked offense. But a lot of that is Diego Pavia. And I just don't know if Bama's going to let him do it. But boy, would I love to see it. Boy, would I love to see it.
Vanderbilt gets put into title conversation if they win this game. They might make the playoff at that point. Because if you can go into Alabama and win, you can almost win anywhere.
Yeah. And their schedule is interesting. They got a lot of prove it. They got Alabama, they got the bye, they got LSU, and they got Missouri to end the month. And then in November, they kick things off at Texas.
I mean, you're not the biggest person on Texas, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they can go 2-2 in this stretch and beat Bama LSU or Bama Missouri, Bama Texas, whatever, like just win 2 of those games, and we're looking at a 10-2 Vandy, I think they're in the playoffs.
I do too. What a journey for Pavia would it be if he could take this team to the playoff? That would be special. That'd be something to watch. That'd be fun. We just, as we do every week, just a little run through a few of the other notable games on the schedule. Josh, if you want to take it away, this is always your time to shine here.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Baylor. I know we've killed them off in this.
No, Baylor is dead to me. They're dead.
I'm gonna trust Robertson over Avery Johnson. However, they did get Dylan Edwards back last week, and that's why their offense looked really good. Dylan looked fantastic running the football. Texas, Florida. Is there anything we're more looking forward to than seeing what Texas offense may look like after the bye? a week to rest, a week to see what happens. And it's not like Florida's going to lay down. They're playing for their coach. They're all playing to show off good tape to try to transfer somewhere nice. And their defense is pretty darn good.
The defense is very good, as we've talked about.
UNLV, Wyoming, I'm going to take UNLV every day of the week. I've got them still making college football playoff. Some way, somehow, the AAC better fall apart. Kansas, UCF. Kansas bounce back in the bounce house, beats UCF. And Duke, Cal, a very sneaky game. I'm going to take Cal because of the cross-country trip, 10:30 start time. But if Duke wins that, don't count out Duke in the AAC.
No, we're counting Duke out. They've let me down too many times. My
That's right.
two-time rule. I can't do it.
It really is a two-time rule with you. You going to
It
get
is. I give you one chance to redeem yourself, and if you can't, you're out. You're dead to me. Why am I giving you more than two chances? At that point, you don't want to change. Not that these teams are changing for me, but maybe they should be. Maybe these teams should be listening to this podcast every single week and learning from us, Josh.
But they would get Georgia Tech next week at Clemson. Don't get me wrong, at Clemson is tough.
Clemson's going to beat them.
And then
I feel like Clemson's going to go on like a little run to save Dabo, and then they're just going to die again. I think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, they have a friendly schedule at North Carolina, at Boston College, SMU, Duke, and then they got that Florida State game November 8th. It's
gonna be fun. It's gonna be an interesting couple weeks here. But really, before we get out of here, Josh, is there any message, anything you want to say to everybody?
I just wanted to mention one thing. If for some reason you're around the Cincinnati area, feel free to come up, talk to me, whatever. We're going to be shooting some videos, trying to figure out what we're going to do to spread the word a little bit about TWSN tailgate and whatnot. If you're at the UC ISU game. And I have to give a shout out, and I know you didn't want to talk about them, but for me, A&M's defense looked phenomenal versus Auburn, 16-10 win. Jackson Arnold, not good, by the way, not good. And then IU escaping Iowa. Sometimes you just got to do it. Just escape Iowa, come out victorious. Did the quarterback getting hurt probably help? Yeah, maybe, but Indiana's still undefeated, and they have Oregon next week. Cannot wait to talk about that one.
That's going to be a fun one.
Bill, we need you back. I need Bill back for that show next week.
Well, again, we will have our people talk to Bill's people, and we will figure this out. Well, we also, in the next few weeks, we got to talk about Ed Orgeron. He might be coming back to college football. So we're going to have to talk about that at some point here because he came on and talked about it again. And yesterday, one of the days, he was talking about if he's itching to get back and he wants it back. So that's something that I'm looking forward to talking about down the line here. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the views. Please like, subscribe, the YouTube page. We are doing this every single Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I can't talk right now. I can't talk. I'm sorry. We've been talking for an hour. You know how it is. Anyways, shout out to my West Coast people who are listening to this. But that's going to do it for us here at TWSN Tailgate. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week.
This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet.